With this time, I go for mine. I get to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. Go for mine. I get to shine. Now throw your hands up.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another This Week in Startups. We missed you guys. It's been a full week, a very busy week. What did we do this week, Tyler? We did. It feels like it was a busy week.
San Francisco.
You were up at San Francisco for an event.
Yeah.
What was that event?
That was the Blogwell.
Blogwell. Yeah, let's not have the dogs in here because they're going to go crazy. All right, well, there we go. Too late. And now we have dogs running through. It's definitely a live show. You're not going to get them, so you might as well just leave them be. So anyway, yeah, very busy week. And big announcement. I promised everybody we have a big announcement about the World Series of Poker. It's a crazy announcement. Okay, so very big announcement. I'm going to play in the World Series of Poker, but that's like $10,000 to be in the World Series of Poker. I don't got $10,000 to spend on poker. That's a little crazy. But I've been sponsored for the World Series of Poker. I'm on a team. I don't know if many of the players out there are poker players. I love playing poker, and so I've joined the Full Tilt Poker team. So the Full Tilt guys, very cool guys. They asked me to be on the team. And so now I'm going to play in the World Series of Poker. If I win, you'll see me on ESPN or something like that. And I will put one of these World Series of Poker, one of these Full Tilt badges here. You know, like you see on ESPN. So now I should put this on my shirt. There you go. This could be our new advertising model. It's
like the race card.
It's like race cards. You could sponsor. You could sponsor the guest. Sponsor Tyler. Right. That's the next sponsorship. Can we get Tyler Cam? Somebody needs to sponsor Tyler. There we go. So we'll put the Tyler Cam on.
Your ad here.
But I think this is incredible. This could be the new podcasting. This could be. Everybody wants to know how to make money from podcasts. This could be the big podcast innovative sponsorship model. It actually looks pretty good. What does everybody in the audience think? It looks like it's floating in, right? I mean, you can clearly tell that's the Full Tilt logo from here. I mean, that's pretty cool. All right, so we have a great show today. We're going to do a bunch of calls. We got a great guest. We'll see who did their homework. We've got a new homework assignment. We've got the Deadpool. All the things that you love about this week in startups we'll have on the show today. Thanks, Kroot.
No problem.
My partner in crime, Kroot, getting me the old green tea. So just a quick check to see who's on Twitter and talking about TWiST. And you can pull up my laptop there. I see a bunch of people are in the room. Hey, Ken. Hey, Dan. Hey, New Jersey Phil. Good to see you. Andrew Warner. Hey, you got to do the news at some point. Steve, Smith. All these great people are in there talking about the show. And let's thank our sponsors. That's always a good thing to do at the top of the show. The Full Tilt logo is pretty outrageous. I mean, look at it, Tyler, on the screen. It's pretty funny. We're very lucky on the show to have three great sponsors. WebSpy, the CEO of WebSpy is going to come on the show. And I think he's from Australia. Is that correct? Yeah. He's from Australia, so he's going to come in to do the show. Great entrepreneur. Everybody knows WebSpy. This enables your employees to enjoy sensible and self-regulated access to the web. Give them full access to the reports so they can see how much time they're spending on the various sites on the web. You get the idea. You don't have to be the draconian boss who's like, hey, you spent 8 hours in Yahoo Answers or Facebook or screwing around on MySpace. You just let them self-monitor themselves and be grown-ups. Go check them out at WebSpy. And do they have a special offer or something, or a special? 10% off with this. Go to webspy.com/twist. Got it. So if you go to webspy.com/twist, TWiST, you will get 10% off. Go check it out, and make sure you tell them Uncle Jason sent you. And DNA Mail, what a great sponsor. They, you may not know this, Tyler, but DNA Mail actually sponsored the show before there was a show. They said, if you do a show, we want to sponsor it. That's the kind of great commitment we have from our sponsors. And everybody knows if you have a startup company, you shouldn't be screwing around with IT stuff. So get a fully hosted, managed Microsoft Exchange or Google Apps service, And it's just much more economical. You just pay by the user. There's no other cost, no servers, no hardware, and it's reliable. 99.1 million nines reliability, or something to that effect. So thank you to those guys, and also, of course, Ustream, who is streaming the show. And here's a very meta look at us on Ustream with my web browser in the Ustream window, which will eventually give us the multi-pane window inside of a window look when it switches. Okay, so we always start the show with some call-ins, but we like to have our guest announced so that you can participate. So with us this week is Atif, I pronounced it correct?
Atif.
Atif, got it correct. Rafiq, who is the head of Yahoo Local for North America, which is a pretty big title. But he's a former entrepreneur. He started some companies, and he actually worked at AOL back in the
Back in the day, in the mid-90s, between 96 and 99.
And what did you do at AOL back then?
I was one of the original corp dev and strategy people.
Ah, so the corp dev group at AOL,
Pretty dominant source of power.
Yeah.
Kind of driving direction and strategy.
Sure. This is back in the day when AOL was charging like $25 million to be the exclusive X sponsor or the exclusive B sponsor of like the channel, right?
That's right. That's right. I mean, we were mailing out discs all across America. We were an online subscription service. We were paying for content. The model was totally different.
Right.
And it all transformed within the course of a couple of years. So that was a really interesting experience.
And did you wind up getting deposed during all that madness or anything like that?
You know, I actually left before the company hit its peak.
Right.
Because I wanted to be part of a smaller environment.
Right. And you started your company, and we'll get into all that in a little bit. But let's take our first caller, Jonathan Johnson. So I guess you'll forward him over to me. Oh, here we go. That's Jason. And then there's the sound. Phones are ringing. Speakerphone. And Jonathan.
Yes.
Are you there, Jonathan?
Yes, I am.
Jonathan, can we hear Jonathan okay? Perfect. Jonathan, thanks for calling This Week in Startups. How long have you been listening to the show?
I started just about a week and a half ago, but I've caught up already, so quite a bit this past week.
How many episodes have you listened to, watched?
All of them, except for the one that we're in right now. So.
Wow, so you are 7 for 7 listening to the show. What do you think of the show so far?
It's great. I really enjoyed it. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I was able to actually watch all the episodes in about a week.
And let me ask you a question. How do you watch them? Do you watch it on an iPhone? Do you listen to it on your computer? What is the? I'm curious as to how you listen to the show, how you consume it.
I've actually been listening to it through the MP3 podcast and iTunes. I'm in a vacation area right now, and I have to take my dog for a walk every day. So I've been, listening to it on my walks. And
got it. So you're on vacation.
Semi-vacation,
yeah.
Yeah, my wife is actually out here singing in the opera company here in Santa Fe, and so
nice.
I'm kind of working, enjoying the scenery.
That's like all entrepreneurs do, right? You do like the half vacation,
exactly.
A little bit of work in the morning, a little bit of work at night, and you get the vacation in the middle.
Exactly.
So you have a question. Let's hear it.
So my main idea that I want to pursue is basically a lifestyle business, and with a lifestyle business, having an exit strategy feels wrong because I don't really foresee wanting to give up the business in an acquisition.
Right.
I don't necessarily think that my idea is IPO material.
Right.
My question is there a creative investment type that works by basically just revenue share or something similar? And if so, how do you find those types of investors?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for people who don't know what he means by lifestyle business, a lifestyle business is a business that generally throws off enough capital to provide a great lifestyle for the person who owns it. So it's not something that maybe Google or Yahoo or Microsoft are going to buy, but it might be something that if you own the business and it made $100,000 a year, $500,000 a year, $1 million a year, you'd be really excited to make that. Is that correct? That we have the same definition there, Jonathan?
Yeah, basically, my idea essentially would be to really provide a great product to a smaller set of users that would really rely on the product. And turning around and selling it to someone else doesn't really make me feel like I'm, doing something good for the customers necessarily.
Yeah. So if you have a customer-centric company and they love working with you, it is harder to sell that business. And however, you do have the right to sell it as the person who started it, and your customers then, of course, have the right to disengage from you as customers. So there is a balance there. I mean, they know that it's a possibility that you could sell the business, and they will respect that if you do it, I'm sure. And anybody who's going to buy it is going to be aware of that. So I guess if you were going to sell it, I wouldn't feel too bad about it, but I would certainly talk to your clients about why you're doing it, how you're doing it, and maybe figure out if there's a way to sort of bridge that transition. So are you thinking of selling it right now, or are you just wondering about this because you're starting one?
Well, it's more that this has like been my dream for the last few years to really start it. I'm actually working at a day job right now. And, I tried to kind of start it last summer, but I ended up getting too much contracting work and having to deal with clients not paying me, and I basically went back to a day job again. So I'm starting to have these feelings that I really want to do this again, and so it's kind of like, trying to find someone to kind of help me, especially with the business side up front, and a little bit of capital. I don't need a ton,
Right.
It's just that type of partner investor that, is really interested in seeing a business succeed as opposed to necessarily just making a ton of money off of a IPO or sale.
Okay, so who you should get to invest in a lifestyle business, the number one person you should tap is the potential customers. And you don't have to actually call it an investment. What you can call it is pay for the service in advance. So when I did my first magazine, I asked people to buy the advertising for a year ahead of time and give me the checks and pay for it ahead of time, which not everybody went for. But I got 4 or 5 of them to do it, so I had enough money to start covering the print runs. So you could actually go to your top 5 clients and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing. Would you guys be opposed to paying me 6 months up front? I'll give you a 10% discount or something like that. And you'll be my first 5 clients. Then you don't need to raise the capital. And then, the other opportunity to raise capital when you have a smaller size business like that is to find somebody who has a passion for that space. So, and who, somebody who knows it, somebody with an affinity. So an affinity-based investor, I think, is probably who would do best for it. But lifestyle businesses shouldn't take too much capital. So you might even want to think about, whatever your costs are. Your costs are what, like computers and an office space?
Well, I already have my own computers and stuff. But, it's really just trying to keep the food on the table, really. So.
Yes. Okay. So that does become the issue. So what a lot of people do is they'll ask their current employer if they would like to be customer number 1. And that works pretty well. So if you go to your current employer and say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about doing this business. I'd like you to be the first customer. I'd like you to still employ me 20 hours a week, whatever. You never know. They might go for it. They may want to still have you involved for 6 months so they can sort of bridge the launch of your company. They might even want to be investors. So I would pursue all of those avenues.
Okay. Great idea.
Any thoughts, Atif?
Well, I find the question really interesting because 5 or 10 years ago, you really didn't find this dynamic in entrepreneurship. Right. There was really one model for entrepreneurship, and this idea of an armchair inventor who's going to do something, I think is really interesting. And the question, from my perspective, becomes how do you do it right? And I think you said a couple of really interesting things. One is, hey, don't quit your day job.
Right.
Do it on the side. Prove it out, and then let it guide you, so to speak. I think a lot more people are going to do that, and some of those may turn into really viable, sustainable businesses that become big, and some of those just may be rewarding because you're doing something creative on the side that gives you fulfillment that unfortunately is not something you can get in your day job per se.
Yeah, that's the number one thing with a lifestyle business is you have to enjoy it. The whole purpose of doing it and taking on the responsibility of the company is so that you can have the pleasure of not having a boss and to start work at 6 and end at 1, or start work at 1 and end at 6, or whatever it is that you want to do, or work or stay home with your kids more often, whatever it is. So good luck with it. Don't worry about the selling part of it. If it grows that big, mazel tov, you sell it. Nobody's going to care. Your customers will be happy for you, and you can always do the right thing and be a mensch and say, oh, you know what, I'm going to be selling the business, but I'm not going to run out the door. I'm going to have a 6-month transition. So I think you do fine. I think you should go for it and enjoy it. Save up a little money, too. That always is a good idea.
Yep, that's what I'm working on.
Yeah. Okay, great. Keep listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Perfect. Just like that, boom. Somebody calls, they need some advice. Maybe we don't even give him the greatest advice in the world. Maybe it's just confirming. That might have been one of those calls, Tyler, where it was just sort of confirming, and he just wants to make sure he's not doing any major mistakes. But lifestyle businesses, I think it's a big part of the future. These micro startups on one side and the lifestyle businesses on the other. Small amount of capital, start a micro startup, and maybe have a medium-sized exit, raise $500,000, exit for $10 to $25 million, and then lifestyle businesses, you're not even looking for the exit. If it happens, that's just great, but you're looking for it to throw off capital so you can just be independent and pursue your muse. So another caller, Mike Stone. And here he is, boom, just like that. Mike Stone, you're on This Week in Startups.
Hi, thanks for having me on, and thanks for a great show.
Oh, thank you. How long have you been listening to the show, may I ask?
I've listened to every single one. I started at around 5, but I went back and listened to them all.
That is fantastic. And can I ask, how do you listen to it? Do you listen to the audio, the video, on your computer, on your iPod? What's your consumption pattern for TWiST?
Well, I listen to it on my G1. I subscribe to it on Podcatcher and just kind of check for updates around Friday, and then download it and listen to it whenever I have it down.
The G1 is the Google phone, the HTC G1, is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
And so it has an iPod catcher on it?
Well, it's an application called Dogcatcher.
Dogcatcher. Oh.
It's really cool, and that's how I listened to TWiT initially, which is also how I first heard of you.
Ah, so you use Dogcatcher and it downloads the podcast. Does it download them over the over Wi-Fi, or does it download it over like the cellular phone network, like 3G?
It can do it over 3G or the wireless, whichever you want.
Wow. See, this is the thing about the iPhone and the AT&T relationship, which is so horrible. The iPhone would be a perfect device for downloading podcasts, but there's no way to download a podcast on the iPhone, right?
I don't use the iPhone much, but I've heard people have some issues with it.
Yeah, I mean, you can download it to your iTunes, but it doesn't. They don't want to clog up the AT&T network.
That's right.
With downloads. So it's, once again, AT&T fail. No offense to AT&T, but AT&T fail.
I love Android. It's been great to me.
Yeah, and they have a new one coming out, the HTC 2, or is it G2? What are they calling it?
Well, I heard of. I saw one that just came out, I think, but it doesn't have a keyboard. So I'm waiting for the next one that has a keyboard. And I heard it's actually going to be by Samsung.
Ah, I gotta get one of these phones and just at least play with it, because I'm a BlackBerry guy and I use the iPhone, and I want to try this one out. So you have a question?
Yes. So in my spare time, I've been working on a project, and in the domain of the project, there's a really big competitor with like Google level mindshare. And on top of that, there's some other competitors that are much smaller, but not nearly as the mindshare, and they have products similar to what I want to produce. Me and my partners.
Right.
So my question is, how do I evaluate my idea that I'm developing, and whether it can overcome the mindshare of the big company and the products that the smaller ones are developing?
Wow, this is a good question. It depends on. Now, did you say exactly what the space was in? Do you have a?
I haven't. No.
Oh, okay. Can you give us an idea of what space it's in terms of vertical? Is it a web-based product? Is it B2B, B2C? Is it search?
It's a web-based service.
Okay.
And it's for general consumers.
Okay. Well, here's the deal. You can assume that you will have competition if it's a good idea, right? Any good idea is going to be thought of by many people. So are people, or there's already startups going after the same space?
Yes. Actually, we recently looked around for what else is there, and some of them look like they're tackling the problem much like we want to, but not quite the same. And they look like they're listening to their users really well, which is also what we want to do. Right.
Okay. So you've got a good competitor out there who's venture backed, I assume, or somehow backed, and then
they have some friends and family capital of a fair amount, from what I read.
Yeah, and so there's one of those players, and then are any of the big boys doing it yet? Yahoo, AOL, Google's, Time Warner's, whatever.
I don't think they're tackling it, not directly, anyways. They have products that may help with it, but not directly, I don't think.
Okay, so it sounds like it's a good idea. Somebody else has it. They've been executing for a little bit. They have a little bit of capital. And so you will be the second person or third person to address the space. That's not like you're so far behind. And most spaces have 2 or 3 winners. So if you look at search, if you look at any number of spaces, there's 2 people usually. There's a Coke and a Pepsi. Sometimes there's one dominant player, Windows. But Apple's still making a good living, and they've been coming back. So it is possible, and that you could be the Microsoft or the Apple in this race, if you look at it like a 2-horse race, or the Google and the Yahoo in the search race. So there's definitely a possibility there. But you want to know what? How to know where you stand in terms of competition?
Well, I guess I'm a little worried that the mind share is too big. I mean, with this problem space, if you think of doing this task, they are the ones that most people will think of.
Right.
And so I think the competitors are having that problem too. I mean, I hadn't even heard of the competitors until we did some deeper searching.
Yeah. It's a tough one. I mean, it really depends on if you think you have the wherewithal to fight the fight for 3, 4, 5 years, right? And that's both in terms of capital and in terms of your own personal stamina, because it's not going to be, you know, if there's people already in the space, it's not like it's going to take you a year to just catch up to them and beat them. It may take you multiple years. And so that you have to answer that question very clearly. Do you have the personal passion for the project to fight it for 5 years? If you do, and this is the most important idea to you, and you have the investors lined up to help, and you think you have a better way to sort of catch the mouse, a better mousetrap, then sure, go for it. I mean, if you think about the video space, YouTube was not the first video site. Google was not the first search engine. Apple didn't make the first MP3 player, right? Rio made the first one. So being first means sometimes you get all the arrows when you go up the hill, and somebody else can come in and they might have a way to sort of solve the problem in a way that you don't. So I highly recommend going for it if you think you have a better system, like Steve Jobs thought he had with the iPod. You have the wherewithal, like, say, Steve Jobs did or Google did, and you personally have that passion for it. And so do you have the passion for it to do it for 5 years? Do you have the wherewithal, and do you think you have a better mousetrap?
I think I do.
Yeah.
My question would be, do you have the thought leadership?
Yeah, so do you... go ahead, say it a little louder. So
Yeah, I mean, do you feel you have the thought leadership? Do you feel like you have a vision that is more extended than what your competitors have? They have barriers, so coming from behind, what you need is an angle on this problem that you think you are the best qualified person in the world to go address. Then you can conquer mountains, right?
Okay, well, I think we have a different angle that might provide a different useful feature for the or way to tackle a problem for the users. So maybe that'll work.
Yeah. And do you have is there a flaw with your competitor? Is there something with your competitor that's their Achilles heel, like they charge customers, or they only do, they only allow the videos to be seen on their site, they don't allow syndication? Maybe you can find something that is their strength and turn it into their weakness. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there's definitely plenty of flaws in the big competitor. That's why these other competitors are springing up, actually. Got
it. There's no way we can know what this is, right? Are you comfortable saying what it is, or?
Well, I think I'm comfortable telling you who the big competitor is.
Okay, yeah, tell us who the big competitor is.
It's Evite.
Okay, sure. So Evite is definitely a 800-pound gorilla in the space. It's pretty ugly stuff, and it hasn't been developed too much in a long time. It hasn't really been developed. It's pretty stagnant. And then there's Jonathan Abrams from Friendster fame is now doing an Evite type system. So I think that space is ripe. Yeah, you should just go right in there and try to innovate if you've got a better mousetrap. Absolutely.
Cool. And actually, I had an idea to build a community. I was wondering, do you think making it open source and kind of building a community that way might have a good potential?
That's possible. If people thought that they could have the invite system on their websites, sort of like, you can blog on Blogger, but you can't put Blogger on your site, but you can with WordPress, that kind of a thing. So you could take the WordPress approach to it and let the community help develop the software. Sure, that could be a great angle. That's the perfect example. Like, Evite's never going to open source their product. They never are going to let people put it on their site. They're going to want it all on their domain name to get their traffic up. So yeah, that's a definite possibility.
Okay, great.
Great, awesome. Well, good luck with it, and keep us in the loop. And where are you based?
I'm actually I'm in Sunnyvale.
Oh, perfect. What are you doing September 14th and 15th?
I don't think I'm doing anything.
Would you like to come to the TechCrunch 50 conference as my guest?
That would be awesome.
Okay, so there we go. Can we get him a ticket to TechCrunch 50? And make sure you come by and say hello.
Cool. Thank you very much.
And next time, you got to get this done in time to launch at TechCrunch 50, maybe next year, September 2010.
I'm hoping to launch before that, but if not,
Okay.
then I'll definitely shoot for it.
Well, then we have to do another TechCrunch 50 conference. Tyler, take a note. We'll do one in February then.
Okay.
We'll have it ready for February. We'll do another TechCrunch 50 conference so that you can launch at it.
Cool.
All right. Great talking to you, Mike. Okay. Well, that was good. Let's take I guess this will be the third and final call. And we have Greg Gerber. Greg,
Yes,
calling from the 818. How you doing?
me. I'm good. How are you?
Good. You have a question for us on This Week in Startups?
Sure, I do. So I recently graduated college, and I was fortunate enough to get a student ticket to last year's TechCrunch 50 event.
Great. How was it?
So it was amazing. I mean, between the panels and the startups who presented, I learned a lot about the startup that I plan to launch when I graduate,
Great.
and it was great. So my question is, as a bootstrapping startup,
Right.
there's lots of these events and
Yep.
that I really enjoy, and
Sure.
they're thousands of dollars.
Yes.
I could easily spend, $50,000 on travel expenses and tickets for my partner and I.
Right.
So I want to know if you had any tricks or ideas as to how you can get involved in these events.
Sure.
Besides, obviously presenting, which in some cases you have to pay for as well.
Yeah.
Just some good ways to get involved in these events.
This is a great question. And hacking the conferences when you're an outsider, how to become an insider.
Sure.
Great question. I'll give you a couple points because I was an outsider and back in the day, in the 90s, when I was in the internet space. Didn't get invited to TED, couldn't get into these big events. And the way I went about it was two things. One, there were events that were free or low cost, like special interest groups, and you can find those online. And if you go on TechCrunch or Mashable, you'll find out about local events. There's meetup.com. And there's a whole bunch of smaller events, 30-person events, 50-person events, 100-person events, where people are talking about very specific things, whether it's databases or whatever. Go to those. Those are valuable. You'll meet sort of the street-level people who are actually building stuff and doing work in the internet space. And then you can also lobby crash other events. So this is something that's a pretty big tradition. I'm torn on it because I'm a conference producer, but people do go to major events and just hang out in the lobby. So for example, at the D conference, if you wanted to go to the D conference that the Wall Street Journal does, you could actually hang out in the lobby at the bar and just meet people. I don't know if I advise doing that because you might get looked at as, a crasher, but a lot of people do that. Get in touch with the people who run the event, ask if you could volunteer, have a skill that they might like, and just say to them, hey, is there any way I could volunteer at the front desk? Or can I help with the audio visual? Or can I hand out bags or stuff the bags at the event? I really want to come, show an interest, tell them why you want to come, ask them if they'll let you volunteer for, one day and come for the second day, or volunteer in the mornings and come in the afternoons, that kind of stuff. It really does help. Every conference needs volunteers. And then if you can connect with the people who are doing the event on Twitter or Facebook and tell them your story, yes, these conference producers sometimes have a soft, spot. So you could say, listen, I'm really into Twitter. Hey, Jeff Pulver, who's running the Twitter conference in New York, and he's doing another one in London, I think. You say, hey, listen, I really love Twitter. I'm just graduated. Is there any way I can join you for the event? I'll do anything. I'll carry your bag. I'll take pictures for you. You can own the rights to the photos. Just, basically beg and offer any service you can to get in, and it might happen.
Sure.
Yeah, that's my advice.
It seems sort of counterintuitive because they have these awesome panels on how to raise money and how to fund a startup, and then they're charging thousands of dollars. So it's difficult, but that's good advice. You
have to also realize, it sounds like it's very exclusionary and stuff like that. And listen, hey, TechCrunch has a $1,000 early bird price, then it goes to $1,500, and then I think to $2,000 or something like that. It's not cheap to throw events. I'll be honest. Sure. It costs hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars to throw these events in some cases. Each person who comes, it costs, when you just rent a hotel, anywhere from $75 to $400 a day per each person at the event. The hotels kill you on these fees. So you just coming to the event, you have to realize costs the conference producer a couple of $100s a day, easily. And so, that's why people have created events like bar camps that are hosted at, somebody just said this in the chat room, but you go to a bar camp and, then as you get going in your career, you can afford to go to those other events, or maybe you get invited. but there's that sort of hacking it in the middle that you could do, which is, you know, get in touch with the conference producers, get in touch with a speaker and see. I get people all the time who give me some sort of sob story. I can't say yes to everybody, but I forward them on to the people who are running the front desk and say, hey, maybe this person can help. And it works if you show a genuine interest.
Sure.
Awesome. Well,
Great, thank you.
It's great talking to you. And how long have you been listening to the show?
Well, I think I started the second episode, but I caught up real quick. So.
Awesome, awesome. What do you like about the show? Is there any particular segment of the show that's your favorite?
Sure, it's good to hear the questions from, you know, fellow founders who are going through a lot of the same things.
Right.
That's the best part.
Awesome.
And actually, I watch on my Apple TV. I kick back with a cold beer and watch on my couch. So.
Ah, Apple TV. Very nice.
Yeah,
Very
there you
nice.
go.
Awesome. All right. Well, great talking to you, and keep listening. And what are you doing September 14th and 15th?
Nothing.
Can you be in San Francisco at that time?
I absolutely can. I'd love to.
Tyler, can we get him a ticket? And he can Twitter that TWiST is the greatest show ever. You got a ticket to TechCrunch 50. Everybody should go to TechCrunch 50.
Definitely.
All right.
Thank you,
Great
Jason.
talking to you. Cheers. Bye. Atif, what do you think? Good questions?
I think they're great questions.
Yeah.
I wish I had this resource 5 years ago.
You know what?
I'd be
It's
calling
sort
you
of.
every week.
It's sort of. This is the show that I wish I had when I was an entrepreneur.
I can tell. I can tell.
Yeah.
Because you give them the advice they need, I think.
Yeah, trying to give them the sort of basic, unvarnished truth. So let's talk about you. You started at AOL, then you started a company.
That's right.
So what was the company, and how did it go?
Well, I was an accidental entrepreneur, and what I mean by that is I moved out to Silicon Valley because having been at AOL and loving the web starting in the mid-90s, I wanted to be part of a startup. I actually didn't want to start a company of my own, but it just kind of landed in my lap, and that's how I think entrepreneurship tends to go. Is it just happens, all the stars align. So in my particular case, there were a few AOL execs that became angel investors. They identified two very talented people who are my good friends today, who are my co-founders. They're two Stanford PhDs. They felt that a business person would be a good complement and round out the team, and said, hey, you know, if you guys come up with a reasonable idea, we'll actually fund you. So we were pretty passionate about search technology, especially in some areas that weren't being addressed, not consumer-facing, but around buzz. And mining, kind of doing data mining for the web to help brands and advertisers understand what's being said about them.
And what year was this that you were doing buzz search?
We got funded in 2001 to do that.
Great timing.
Yeah, exactly.
Tough time. So, but what's interesting about what you said, and it's a good tip for a lot of potential entrepreneurs out there, is that you got funded by the people you used to work with who did well.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's people who knew me in particular. And we had worked together for years, so they know what they were going to get into. And so that was great. And I trusted their judgment about people who I didn't know before. And we've been friends for 10 years, in this case, my co-founders.
And so you had this idea that you could actually track buzz, things that were breaking on the web back in 2001.
That's right. I mean, there were chat rooms. There wasn't Twitter, right? And so it wasn't real-time conversations, but there was a lot of data. It was very unstructured.
Message boards.
Message boards, so on and so forth. So it was a good from two perspectives. One is good technology, which my co-founders were keen on doing, and an application and a new need, which is really where I come in. So we got a company funded to do that, and we were well on our way to building a product in that area. But consumer web just went away. So we had to repurpose the same technology for businesses.
And what happened? You went to people who would buy this, marketing managers or PR people or whatever, and they just didn't understand it at the time, or they didn't understand if they should pay for it? What was the reaction?
Well, I actually, it was even more simple than that. It was every consumer web company just went out of business, so it was pretty clear that there was no money there, and the investor appetite was actually fairly low to do, second and third rounds. So we knew we had to go for something very concrete. And software is a very established model; it's been around for 20 years. So if you can do something that's not available from one of the big boys, you can usually get a CIO to pay attention. So we went after the space of content management and trying to help companies manage unstructured information. As you know, a big company like one of our customers, General Motors or Bank of America, they have thousands of documents all across the company, and they don't know what those documents say, and that's a problem.
So you intranet software to collect all that stuff, and then you wound up selling it.
Yeah, it was kind of intelligent document management.
Right.
Yeah. So somewhat technical sale to a CIO and a business line manager.
Right.
And so what we do is we built the company over 4 years. We raised $13 million in multiple rounds, grew the company to about 40 people. We got good customer traction, early
Right.
revenue, but enterprise software is a fairly mature market.
Right.
Like I said, it's 20 years old. So really to scale revenue, you're going to have to be one of the big boys.
Right.
And we needed to look at an exit.
Right. And so sold the company.
We sold the company, actually fairly modest exit. In fact, at that point, very volatile enterprise software. We were in deep discussions with one of the bigger players, PeopleSoft, and they turned around and accepted an offer from Oracle. So that, as you know, when you're selling a company, you want multiple bidders, right, to
Right.
grow the price.
Right.
And when the bidders are themselves getting bought, then your leverage declines.
Right.
So we did sell the company. The product lives on. Our engineering talent carried the product forward, and it's a good product today. But we weren't able to hit a double or a triple or a home run, which is what you.
But that's okay. I mean, listen, you swung the bat, you tried. I'm sure you don't regret trying to do it with the company, right?
Oh, absolutely not. Entrepreneurship in my mind is a journey,
Right.
and a company is just one stop along the way.
Right.
So, like I said, with entrepreneurship, I mean, I think you don't force it,
Right.
but it's also a state of mind. It stays with you. You're probably an entrepreneur before you started the company. I can tell from your callers that a lot of these people are just kind of born to be creative people and to be putting product out there.
Right.
And whether they do it now or 3 years from now or 5 years from now, I think they'll all be bringing that talent in some way.
And now you're at Yahoo running the local group. What exactly is the local group there?
Well, local. We have a collection of local properties, so you can go to local.yahoo.com.
Sure.
It's kind of one of the leading local destination sites in the web.
Sure.
It's a very one of Yahoo's largest properties. We handle about 1.5 billion searches every year.
Wow.
We have over 20 million uniques, so it's one of the.
Is it people searching for like a plumber or a restaurant or a pizzeria or a local address kind of stuff?
A lot of it is
Yellow
that.
Pages type business?
A lot of it is very much so a utility,
Yeah.
and that's the way we look at it. So
Sure.
our value proposition is really around task completion. We want to get you in and out with the data and information you need as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely right.
And competitor to Yahoo Local would be what? City Search and Yelp, I guess?
Well, from a search perspective, you have Google Maps
Right.
because it's Maps and local kind of mashed
Put together
up.
as one thing. Yep.
Exactly. And then on the other end, from a destination site perspective, you have maybe a Yelp or a City Search,
Right.
An actual place people go.
Sure.
The local search business is really dominated by Google and Yahoo because we happen to own search engines.
Right.
So we can catch people at the top of the funnel,
Right.
understand when their intent is local,
Right.
and redirect them to local content, which is really where our team comes in.
Right. So, in a way, you have a competing product to a Yelp, and you get to use the search dominance to sort of leapfrog them and get to the top of the page.
That's right.
It's a pretty good deal for you guys.
Well, having a search engine
Right.
as part of an asset in the company is
Yeah.
huge. And I think that's a thing and an asset really only 2 or 3 companies have.
Right. So City Search has to get ranked in Yahoo and Google. Yahoo and Google get to put the result right up top.
Correct.
Is there conflict of interest there, or do people perceive that like, oh, you guys get to put your own content up top? You're competing with us, Yelp kind of people, like.
Yeah, I think there's a few ways to look at it. So
Yeah.
the first is that users love it, first of all, because they want a complete task. So when you can give them a shortcut to what they're actually looking for,
Right.
as long as it's relevant, and we're very particular on our confidence levels around being able to understand the queries and serve against them. So we have a very high threshold there. So as long as you're relevant, I think users love it.
Right.
Second, we totally differentiate between algo results and what's a Yahoo content module.
Right.
And we don't rearrange any search results to bias in our favor. In fact, those search results are quite open. So within our search team, we have a program called SearchMonkey, and companies like Yelp and City Search and Zagat and Insider Pages, all the good local content companies can actually go and enrich their search results presentations.
Yeah, we've done that before at Mahalo. Yeah. It's a pretty cool product. Yeah.
So openness is a big theme for us at a corporate level.
Yeah, Yahoo Boss, obviously.
Absolutely.
We're using a little Yahoo Boss in Mahalo 2.0.
Very successful product.
What's the climate like at Yahoo now? You had a change in management, and
I think it's quite
very strong leader. She seems very strong.
Absolutely. I mean, we're very happy to have clear direction, and very good leadership. So I think you look at the cover of Barron's, I think this weekend, Carol Bartz, is she going to turn Yahoo around? And I think they concluded she can.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see some really good signs in terms of commitment, further investment, rationalizing the portfolio, figuring out where we're going to play and where we can't compete, and that's okay. We know what our strengths are, and really doubling down on those things. Yeah. So I think as a person managing a team or an employee, that definitely increases your confidence.
Yeah,
that we
it seems
can
like
move
the focus level is high.
Absolutely.
And they're going to get rid of things that maybe are not as, core. Or,
Well, we may have underinvested, and that's just a reality of life. I mean, you're not going to win every battle, but you got to know where you stand out in the minds of users, and really continue to invest in those and dominate those markets.
I'll tell you the thing that Yahoo did amazingly from back in the day, even much better than AOL, and this is pre-Google days, and I remember talking to Jerry Yang about this, and he said to me 2.4 or something, and I was like, what do you mean 2.4? And he said, it was in an interview when I was a journalist, he said, oh, if we get you to use 2.4 of our services, we've got you. And at that time, Yahoo Instant Messenger, My Yahoo was a very innovative product when it came out that a lot of people copied, Yahoo Finance, Yahoo Email were all integrated to a level that nobody had done on the web before. So if you received an email message, you got an alert to your Yahoo Messenger. If you could create an alert for a stock ticker, if it changes by this percent, 10% in my finance.yahoo portfolio, then alert me by instant message. Or if there's a news alert for this company, alert me. I mean, it was fantastically integrated across the product lines. It's something that seems to maybe have not been focused on as much. It seemed like a lost opportunity. How is it working between divisions there? Is that a big focus to make local and search and Flickr and all these things work together? All the different disparate brands?
Actually, it is a resurgent theme. We refer to those as horizontals. So in many ways, you can think of local or social as a horizontal. It's something you can pepper almost every property we own with. So you're in news. You might want hyperlocal news. You're a mail client, and you're meeting up with friends and trying to find the best Italian restaurant in your area. Do you want to do a quick lookup? And where is that data going to come from? It might come from a Yahoo local. Well, let me grab the map and populate it. So I don't have three disparate experiences. I have a great seamless user experience. So we're definitely thinking about that in certain horizontals, as we call them, and local and socializing. Knowing who else is on and how they can help you make better decisions is also another key one.
It's interesting too. You guys have the email box over here. You've got people with their photos over here on Flickr with their friendships already there, the social graph. The email box is a social graph. The instant messenger is a social graph. You could instantly just turn on, like you did with the 360 product, which probably wasn't fully baked when it came out, but your My Yahoo page could all of a sudden just be like, here's your relationships, and here's what your relationships are doing. I mean, you could turn Yahoo into Facebook, the proper architect, inside of 3 to 6 months, I think, and have a Facebook-like experience for people where their inbox and what their friends are doing was more integrated.
Yeah, I've actually heard outsiders and media say that what we have as assets in Mail and Messenger is the largest social network around.
Yeah.
So that's definitely true. We now need to begin to integrate those, which is your point.
Yeah, and AOL tried with AIM pages and stuff like that. It didn't quite work, and they wound up buying Bebo, and it's kind of tough because the Yahoo homepage means one thing to people and the Facebook homepage means another. I guess the metaphors, it's hard to mix the metaphors once people get used to them.
That's right. I don't think what I'm hearing is we're not trying to become a Facebook.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we can't be social.
Right.
And so what we're saying is whether you're having a finance experience or a news experience or a local experience, how do you use social to actually better inform you around that? To actually connect with people in very meaningful ways to say, oh yes, I'm going to make this decision, or this might be related content, so on and so forth. That's different than saying that you're friends and you're going to know every detail through a feed, which is really what Facebook is preeminent at. So we're trying to play in the social space in a little bit of a different way.
And I see Lockhart Steele from Curbed is watching. What do you think of Curbed? I mean, that's a great site, local site. Covering real estate and that kind of stuff, blogging. Any aspirations to do more content? I mean, Yahoo to me has this sort of weird schizophrenic thing with content. Like sometimes they want to be Google and just be a platform, and then other times they want to get into content a little bit. How do you balance that? Is Yahoo Local a content company or not?
I think we're really a technology company,
right?
And there's best-of-breed content providers out there, and they may, license the content. They may have their own editorial. They may do UGC.
Right.
It doesn't mean we won't do our own UGC, for example, because we have,
right.
a gazillion uniques, and those people want to participate and they want to contribute. So we'll provide those hooks whenever we can, but we're principally not a content provider within the local space, and we understand that the local space actually is quite fragmented from a content perspective. So whether you're talking about menus, you're talking about hyper-local news, you're talking about neighborhood discussions, and that's a lot. That's a full gamut of things, right? So what we're really trying to do is create an open environment where people can contribute. Today, it's principally around deals. We do deals with people. We get their feeds. We bring them in.
Yeah.
We're more of an aggregator. I think in the future you'll see more of a technology-based approach where people can come in through more efficient ways, like a self-service, and throw their content in, and it can show up in some of our pages in standardized ways.
Ah, interesting. Who do you think is doing interesting stuff in the local space? I mean, you have Yelp, you have Curbed, you have Outside In. What do you think of some of those Backfence that went out of business? I mean, local news is just super hard. Really, like nobody's made that work. The newspapers are getting just demolished with the print costs. What do you think? Who's doing good stuff there?
Well, in local, I think the companies that are doing best are actually focused on monetization.
Right.
Because content is a very hard problem.
Right.
And advertising is not very easy in local either. The
hard.
Local merchant, as we say, Joe's Pizza around the corner, is not very focused on figuring out how to do sponsored search or AdSense or Yahoo search marketing, right? So that's actually a difficult problem in it of itself. But there are companies that are achieving scale with their monetization, doing hundreds of millions of revenues, because local is if you have a good local experience, it's a very targeted place to connect users and advertisers.
Right.
So I think companies are doing well there. On the content side, it's very, very fragmented right now, and we think that's actually one area where we can add value, because we're not asking companies to become, have national coverage for something like coupons, right? I mean, you might have circulars for your state or your region, or maybe a vertical, right? Or a category, but to have national coverage across verticals and categories is a very difficult problem. These companies aren't funded at the level of hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right, mom and pop.
Mom and pop. So even
lifestyle businesses.
Yeah, well, with lifestyle businesses. So how do you create an environment where everyone can be good at what they are, but still get the distribution, which is what we bring to the table. So I think in the future you'll see that kind of ecosystem emerge where Yahoo Local and Yahoo in general is a place where local content can proliferate.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great if you pulled in the Outside In, bloggers, or Met blogging bloggers, or Gothamist, or Curbed. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't have to be one company. It could be multiple companies, right? Like a little syndicate where they basically compete, and the best content gets consumed, and then we reward those people by bubbling up their content more than others.
And I see here on the site, we can pull it up on my laptop, I just pulled up Bay City's Italian Deli, which is a deli around the block from the Mahalo office that a lot of people go to, and some changes made by the users. You give a little alert about that, and you can actually take a look at the changes, the new information, and if you agree or not with it. You guys have been doing that for a couple of years now. How is that sort of crowdsourcing of information working? Does it work for you guys?
Yeah, it works. We want more of it, in fact. So I think we can do a better job of incenting users, giving them a call to action, allowing them to participate more. But we actually treat user submissions as very important information. And if someone wants to come and snap a few pictures with their iPhone at Bay Street Deli and then upload them to Yahoo, they can do that.
Right.
So we think that's a huge value prop, because you're not just going to rely on you're going to rely on the whole community to actually create the most enriched content.
And Yelp, awesome company. What are you guys' thoughts on that? I mean, do you look at that and just go, wow, these guys are killing it. They've got just such an awesome brand. Can you guys compete? Like, having the Yahoo brand is such an asset because you get all the good things that come with Yahoo, but you get looked at as the big, monstrous company, whereas Yelp's got that sort of hip, insider kind of thing. Can you guys compete with them on that sort of hip community building, or is it just harder?
Yeah, I think we're not trying to do that. I mean, I'm very impressed with Yelp. I think they're very good at what they do. Where I see it being very complementary is, for example, we're really focused on the local search problem right now. So it's easy to do pizza Santa Clara or pizza, Santa Monica, right? But what we're seeing now when we look at our query logs is more complex intent. So people are typing in things like pizza Santa Monica Stromboli. They want a menu item. They're being very specific. Their intent is very sophisticated. There's only 2 or 3 companies in the world who can really decipher that at scale and then match the right content to it. And that's where a company like Yelp can benefit, right? Because we can match the right listing and then provide the Yelp review, which may have mentioned Stromboli within the review snippet, and then share some traffic with them. Or share in the value creation in some ways. So I think if we focus on our core, which is good technology, then we'll be able to have a good, thriving relationship with companies like Yelp.
Great. So any questions you might have, just of course say them on Twitter and put #TWiST at the end. If we use your question, you will get a ticket to the Local Search Summit, which you're going to be speaking at.
I will be there. I'm really looking forward to it.
This is going to be great. You can pull it up on my screen here. Local Search Summit is on July 17th in San Francisco. And this is an interesting story of how this came about. I'm at the, do you know how this whole thing came about?
Oh, no, I'd love to hear it.
This is a really good story. So I am at the Lakers game. My friend last minute says, want to go to Lakers versus Houston Rockets. I said, okay, I'll go to Lakers versus Houston Rockets. Who's not going to go?
Yeah,
right?
I'd go in a heartbeat.
I leave the game. I take out my BlackBerry. I go, that was a great game. Anybody wants to take me as their date to game 2, let me know. Sort of joking.
Yeah.
Right? But it goes to 70,000 people, so it's not, this guy, Steve Espinoza, texts me back and says, hey, I have an extra ticket. I'm planning on going. If you want to go, it'd be cool. I read your blog or whatever. I follow you on Twitter. And I said, well, that's great. Meet me at the, the statue of Magic Johnson,
nice.
And we'll go to the game. And so we meet, and he's actually there. So I'm wondering to myself, like, am I going to show up and get murdered or something? Speaking of local, Craigslist we didn't talk about, but
right.
I love how, just as a total aside, I love how like Craigslist is killing people. Like they say in the news, Craigslist kills this person. It's like, do they say like when somebody robs a bank, like Volvo robbed the bank?
They need to invest in some PR, I think.
It's just people are crazy. Like the people so want to demonize Craigslist.
Right. It's
just a dial tone. Like,
Right.
I mean, every day there's drug deals going on T-Mobile's network. They don't say like T-Mobile, somebody gets caught dealing drugs on T-Mobile or AT&T. They don't go, oh my God, AT&T involved in, huge heroin, trafficking.
I think it's good copy. It's good story.
It's really good copy to go after Craigslist, exactly. So anyway, I meet Steve Espinoza, nice guy, and he starts telling me about local. And I say, yeah, mahalo, we're going to do some local stuff, whatever. I'm interested in learning about that. And anyway, so he starts helping us and giving us some tips. And he says, yeah, I'm going to do this event. Would you come to it or whatever? And I said, yeah, I'd love to. Actually, I have a conference business. You want to partner on it because I want to learn. So we started a one-day event. We're doing it, and we got Yahoo and Google and all these great people coming. And check it out on the screen here. Local Search Summit. Actually, Jeremy from Yelp is going to come. I got to talk to Lockhart Steele and see if he'll come, because that would be a great one to have him on a content panel. It'd also be great to have the outside-in guys. So we have to talk about that afterward, Tyler, about maybe doing some content and community people as complementary to the local search piece, since, as we're hearing here, the search people are trying to integrate the content in a much more tight way. And so if you're interested in coming to the event, let us know. The people who called in, can we let the people who called in today know they can come as our guests? Or maybe one of them can come or something like that if they ask a good question. Here's a great question from Gaganan Biane. I can't pronounce it, I'm sorry. Let's take a look at this tweet here. He says, and you can see it up on the screen when Twitter loads. Twitter's crushed under the Michael Jackson things. He says here, how might Twitter, you can see it up on the screen there, how might Twitter play into local search? This is a good question. Gagan Biani. Hopefully I pronounced it somewhat correct.
Yeah.
What do you think? Twitter and local search. Or Twitter just in local business anyway. I mean, all business is local. Twitter is local. What do you think? Are you indexing Twitter? Are you thinking about indexing tweets into your pages?
I think in general, search engines are. And it's, you know, search engines are particularly good at content that's been out there for a little bit of time. You know, the stuff that's a day old or 2 days old or a few hours old.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the new frontier. That's a new frontier for many search engines.
Right.
So I think in that respect, Twitter becomes really, really important. And like I said, we own a search engine, so when people are telling us what they want to get done, you know, we've got to get that type of content covered as well. So I think that could be huge. You can imagine a lot of integrations into like news and getting a sense for the buzz and the meme around it. I think that's really informative. For local, the way we currently define it is principally based around a business listing, you know, a place or a business you're going to go visit. So to the extent that those businesses are mentioned, that would be important to us. They could enhance reviews.
Sure.
Or they could be quick ways of actually providing a lot of data, like what the ambiance is or what's good on the menu, which is something we're all interested in.
Sentiment.
Sentiment.
Yeah.
Good way to put it. I think the hard part is very unstructured, so it's not an easy problem.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You have worked your startup that sort of went sideways. The original idea was that sort of buzz stuff. So it sort of all comes full circle, and that's one of the great things about being an entrepreneur.
That's right.
We should probably get ready. Oh, you had something to add, Tyler?
It's interesting that Jack from
Tyler
Twitter,
Cam.
yeah, Jack from Twitter has been putting his location on Google Maps in real time whenever he does a tweet. So you can see where he's tweeting from, and which leads one to logically conclude they're probably very interested in attaching geolocation to each tweet. And when that happens, this whole new layer jumps on top.
That's right.
You can say, you know, you can see a tag cloud of the map of where people are saying what.
Well,
additionally, if for some reason something bad's happening in your area, there's a big accident 5 blocks away. This really only happens when everyone gets on board with Twitter, but then it becomes a social mind where you can see where things, and you can be notified if something's happening disproportionately in your area.
Well, I think you raise a great point. So it's very unstructured, but if you can geotag this stuff, right, then you can begin to create a discovery type experience, which is really huge for people. You take a map, you overlay the tweets. Like we're gonna, you know, and we do some of that today with Flickr. We overlay, you know, UGC photos on top of a map, and you can float around. It's very informative. And you get a real good local feel for what it would be like to visit this park or this trail, so on and so forth. So I think that's very important. Like we actually have enabling technologies. One of them we just launched a couple of weeks ago is called Placemaker, and it's a development tool for any publisher to go and geoparse their content. So those kinds of things are very important to us from a technology perspective and from an end user perspective, geotagging kind of the world.
Yeah, and it's interesting that unfortunately the geotags are in the tweet itself.
Right.
And this is the thing about, they have to get metadata into the into the tweets, because when you take a picture with your camera, you can geocode it pretty easily. However, when you send a tweet, it's got to be at the end. It's so dorky to like put it in the tweet. You only have 140 characters, so I want to use that feature all the time when I'm using my iPhone, but I don't want to take up the tweet space with that. It's just sort of a way. So,
but it shouldn't, because it knows that you're tweeting from the web. You know how it does, like tweeting from the web. It also gives you the time. Like those things aren't part of the tweet, but they're part of the data.
The client, and the time, the client, and how you and who it is aren't part of the tweet. Who you're saying it to is. And it shouldn't be. It should be when you reply, it should be somehow in there in the metadata, as should the location. It would be so much better if they had the location in the metadata, like you do on a camera.
Yeah, that would be huge.
Anyway, interesting. So let's give Gagan Biani a ticket to the show. We'll do it based on who asked local questions. Since those other guys are getting the Tech Crunch 50 questions, these ones will get the localsearchsummit.com questions. And we have another one here. Let's see. Tips on targeting local searches while positioning business as nationwide.
I see. Okay, so people are getting into the SEO questions.
The SEO question, yeah. So I have a local business for my jewelry company. But I also want to get a national audience. How do I have my cake and eat it too? Do you have to create 2 different business names for one location? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you have, you know, these what we call virtual local businesses. In other words, I don't live, my business is not physically located in North Dakota, but I can sell to customers there. They're relevant to me. So that's where a lot of this comes in. I think you need a local phone number. And so you need to look at things like pay-per-call and call routing and things of that nature.
So this is interesting. So there are people who position themselves as local businesses. They get 50 numbers in 50 cities and then route them all to one place, but they answer them, you know, Acme Jewelry of Tennessee.
Yeah, they give the businesses a local feel, a local skin, and you know, some of that is very genuine and makes sense, right? Because your customers can be, you know, distributed anywhere. So I think that makes sense, and you need to really work on your profile, and I think it starts with the phone number.
All goes backwards from the phone number. Is that the key field for you guys? The phone number gives you the area code data?
That's what the customers are looking for. Users are really looking for someone to speak to.
Right.
And get a feel for who picks up the phone.
Does the call per click stuff work? I've seen that pitch a million times. Like, we route the call, and do you guys have that service, or is that other businesses?
Well, we allow other people to do it.
Right.
So if you're a local merchant, you have a partner who's doing your SEO or SEM, and they want to attach a specific phone number so they can track the calls.
Right.
They can do that within our listings. But we don't provide that service ourselves.
Do you think that service works, though, where people say, like, people are going to call for 800 dentists or whatever, and these lead generation local phone numbers, is that a big business, or is it kind of a smarmy kind of side business?
Yeah, it
feels a little smarmy to me, like on the side.
Well, I think there's conflicts there. That's for sure. I mean, because people have all kinds of issues. You know, you want to track, and you want standardized services, so you typically want to route it to a centralized number.
Right.
But I want to talk to the plumber who's actually going to come to my door.
Right.
That's different. If you're ADT, for example, you know, you want security services, they have a central call center, but you might want to talk to the franchisee.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of issues there. But it's very high from a monetization perspective, because ultimately it's the closest thing to foot traffic. And so it monetizes very well.
They want it. Okay, so let's give Preppin that one, a ticket to the local searcher. That's Preppin, who we had on the show with Ask Jason a couple episodes ago. Watching again, it's great to see the same familiar faces. And we're now at the top of the hour. We're an hour into the show, which means it's time for the news with
Mr. Lawnhouse.
I love that slide of Lawnhouse.
That's a
good looking newsman.
It is.
That's like a Ron Burgundy.
It's all color coordinated.
More chins on our news than any other major information.
Come on now. Okay,
Pound for pound.
Here we go. It's time for the news. First of all, Lon,
Yes.
what do you think of the Full Tilt sponsorship?
I could not be more excited. Long before I worked at Mahalo or knew you, I watched Full Tilt poker players on television.
There you go.
Many years, so
Absolutely.
very exciting.
And interestingly enough, Jason, who was a guest on the show from DocStock, is watching, which is great that our guests are watching the show. And they asked how much it would be to buy this spot on the show. So I think maybe we'll sell Tyler's.
$1 million.
$1 million, says Alex. Thank you, producer Alex. That's an interesting idea. I wonder what this spot here is worth on the show. Because you can actually see it.
You can.
Okay.
You could change it like they do at the ball games, like behind.
Oh, it could be.
Where you could see switch
right
around
here
during the show.
You put it right here, a little box or something.
Totally.
Okay, so what's in the news?
Well, of course, big story. We have to mention it at the top. Superstar Michael Jackson died yesterday at the age of 50. TMZ and Twitter had the story well before CNN or MSNBC or any other broadcast network. So, do you think this is a case of TV is sort of this out of date, they can't keep up with the sort of real-time discussion that we've come to know on the web? Or do you think this is a case of them being responsible, getting all of their sources, making sure it's true, unlike TMZ, which is just going to get forward because they want to be the big story first?
I think, in this case, TMZ had the story first. I believe they had the story first because it's a celebrity story, and they have been right about all this stuff. I mean, give me the major blunder TMZ has made. I don't know of one.
Yeah, no, I mean, when we saw at the Mahalo news team, when we saw TMZ say Michael Jackson was dead, we had no reason to think Michael Jackson was not dead.
You may not like what TMZ does in terms of stalking celebrities on the street with cameras, paparazzi, whatever, but they've been on the money. I mean, they've been accurate with Mel Gibson with that tirade he went on, Britney Spears and all the nonsense.
Heath Ledger, they were leading that story.
I mean, they have inside information, and they hustle, and they make phone calls. what was amazing was CNN for at least half an hour, if not 45 minutes,
Yeah, maybe a little more.
would not even mention the fact that TMZ, half an hour, 45 minutes earlier, had said he's dead. And TMZ supposedly had one of the Jackson's siblings texting
they saw LaToya leave and they were watching people in the room.
It's pretty clear that. So then the question is, why wouldn't CNN mention it? Are they specifically trying to not give the new media people credit, or are they trying to be responsible journalists? So in game theory, you would think, well, they don't want to give them credit, they don't want to, whatever. But then they eventually wound up having to, and then they said, like, even after CBS and LA Times and all these people had said it, they're like, CNN still has not confirmed it. So what I think CNN is trying to do is prove a point that they are not going to report news. They use this instance as a way to do it. We will not say somebody's dead unless we hear it from the coroner.
Right.
And eventually, like, what was it, 2 hours later?
It was at least an hour, probably more.
Like 2 hours later, I think it was like an hour before, 45 minutes or an hour before they said he had died.
Yeah.
But it was like 2 hours before they said, we've gotten in touch with the LA coroner and they've confirmed it. CNN has confirmed it. So they had like 3 phases. One, where they didn't mention the fact that everybody on Twitter for 45 minutes was saying he's dead, and because of TMZ. Then they had 45 minutes or an hour of TMZ and LA Times and CBS are saying this, and then they finally went to their mode. What this is going to do is it's going to train people not to turn on CNN, to just turn on Twitter. So this is a sort of a watershed moment, I think, and we've been having little ones, but this could be it, where people say, just like they used to not go to newspapers and the nightly news, they would go to CNN.
Right.
Now it's like, turn to Twitter first.
Well, but do you think it matters that Twitter was also saying Jeff Goldblum had fallen off a cliff in New Zealand? Twitter was also saying, I read somebody said Neil Patrick Harris was dead, which of course, not true. Jeff Goldblum and Neil Patrick Harris, both perfectly fine.
And good actors.
Great actors. Who doesn't love them?
Yeah.
So does that matter that
Here's what
you get the information first, the real information, but you also get a lot of questionable information?
Esther Dyson said something very smart once, which was, on the internet, you can easily spread lies, but you can never stop the truth. So the truth eventually wins. So you will get fake stuff, rumors spread very quickly. Mm-hmm. On CNN, you shouldn't have that happen. They shouldn't get duped too often.
No.
But you see all the time with the Howard Stern callers and stuff like that calling in and being like, oh my God, I'm here. The Peter Jennings favorite call, and they're like, I'm here with O.J. Simpson or whatever, and then they end with a Baba Booey. I mean, they get spoofed too.
Larry King on CNN.
Larry King gets spoofed. So, I mean, it's pretty clear that, and the other ironic thing about it is, Time Warner owns both CNN and half of TMZ.
Yeah.
And I think they own the other half of TMZ too, or whatever. But anyway, they own this. So it doesn't, I don't think it's a financial thing, it's like it's a deep ethical thing that they do not want to report on somebody else reporting on it, which I thought was weird, because it is news that TMZ reported it.
Right, yeah.
That in and of itself, that TMZ has confirmed it, whether TMZ is correct or not, is news. So I think CNN is fine to say TMZ is reporting he's dead. If TMZ is wrong, then they just say TMZ was wrong. And he could, Wolf Blitzer can say over and over again, we do not have confirmation, TMZ is saying this. Was there anything wrong with doing that?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that for them, they're basically then turning over their newsroom to TMZ. They're like, we can't stay as on top of this. All we're doing is reloading TMZ, just like all of you.
Right, and they don't want to admit that.
Right, which is basically what they'd be admitting.
Which is, they have that, and then they also have a bank of maybe 3, 4, 5 people who are real journalists calling and producers calling LA coroner. Well, and they have those people's numbers. They have police officers' numbers, so they're texting those people their inside sources as well. Interesting. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, it's fascinating. I think you guys covered the high points, but yeah, I mean, Twitter is obviously redefining what is breaking news.
Right.
And I think you're going to talk at the end about a new book by Jim Collins, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have very mature companies that are looking at innovation and to what extent they should embrace it or kind of try and keep it at bay, and I think it's a very relevant topic.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, LA Times and TMZ, I think, reported the death first on their Twitter streams and then on the web, right?
LA Times, I definitely saw it from them on Twitter first before they had a story. Their article on the LA Times blog where they were reporting it actually still said he was in a coma when their at LA Times City Desk, which is their Twitter feed that I follow, that was already saying he's dead. And if you went to the LA Times site, it took him about 5 minutes to even get up the, okay, now he's dead, he's not in a coma.
The crazy thing about this is that people now are tracking news stories in minutes, single-digit minutes. And also, we're processing them so quickly. So it feels to me like it's just 24 hours after, less than 24 hours after it happened, right? It happened yesterday at 1 or 2.
It was about
right about
now.
Time,
yeah,
2
it was
o'clock.
about now.
I feel like this is really old news. It's like,
interesting.
because you know everything. They have taken every piece of information, discussed it, every single possible tweet. You know, he was taking, supposedly he was given a shot of Demerol.
Demerol, that's what they're saying.
And for those of you who don't know, I've taken a shot of Demerol, not recreationally or anything. I burned myself, and was terribly with coffee. You know the French press?
Yes.
I was doing a French press.
French press.
I'm basically in New York in my apartment, pushing the stick down on the French press.
Right.
The stick breaks.
Oh, man.
The press goes like this, bang, on the table. Sorry about that, guys, in the sound. Somebody's ear just went boof. And I do like in the Matrix, like slow motion, like this, boom, and the hot coffee goes, hits my shoulder. I look at my shoulder, and it's steaming. And it's turning red in front of me, and then starts to blister. I run to the shower, I turn it on, boom. I go to the hospital. The woman goes, Calacanis, is your brother's name Josh? Because I'm in the hospital, because basically I had second-degree burns, basically. Broken, oh, it's disgusting. Yeah, blisters and everything. And she goes, your brother's Josh? I said, yeah, my brother's Josh. She goes, oh, I dated your brother in high school. I said, really? She goes, yeah, I'm going to take good care of you. Like this.
Hopefully it ended well.
Dopamine. Not dopamine, Demerol. Demerol with a little codeine in it, she said. She goes, you're not going to remember anything. You're not going to feel anything. Boom. Right in the ass. Demerol shot. I felt like Superman for a day. You couldn't, you know how the sensation of gravity, of actually like having weight in your body was gone. I felt like I was floating. Not a pain in the world. And apparently, he might have been addicted to this.
That's what they're saying. That's
what
I think
family's saying or something?
There was somebody in the Jackson family, an unspecified source within the family, that told, I think, the LA Times, that they believe he was addicted to Demerol and painkillers.
Right, and there was some song he sang about it in, possibly?
On the album Blood on the Dance Floor, I believe, from 1997, there was a single called Morphine, in which he sings about Demerol addiction. That's true.
Well, this is getting, very sad. And it's a total tangent, but
yes.
I felt I needed to tell my story
about
Demerol. We have the time.
But you have a good point. You're talking about speed, and everything's speeding up.
Right.
And all the facets of this story are totally consumed by now. That's pretty amazing
and it's
change.
It's like people consume it fast, and they get through this process so quickly. It's like we're on to the next thing. It was like that morning Farrah Fawcett, now onto this. Last week is Iran elections. It's like that's over. You know, we just whip through these stories, and our consumption of media is so ADD that it's almost like it's become such a science now of some really fascinating story out here on the web, or some little thing bubbles up, boom, gets put on CNN, everybody consumes it, and we're on to the next thing. It's so efficient that it's almost weird.
Yeah.
It's oddly efficient, the news flow now.
Yeah, I mean, the things that used to take months to develop are over within a 24-hour news cycle.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we will not be talking about Michael Jackson next week. They'll be having the memorial concert like this weekend or something. Right.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that there'll be the funeral, which will get a ton of coverage. I'm sure there'll be some sort of all-star benefit concert to celebrate his legacy, and then everybody will move on.
Very sad.
Yes.
And heart goes out to the family and everything. It's terrible.
Tragic.
Moving on.
Tesla Motors will receive a $465 million loan from the U.S. government to aid in the development of their Model S sedan and their electric powertrain manufacturing plant right here in California. The loan comes out of a $25 billion program designed to help out auto manufacturers from the federal government. I think most people probably watching the show are aware, Jason, of your sort of general thoughts on the Tesla brand. But how would you respond to criticisms that I have been reading on the web all week that this is too much taxpayer money to finance an unproven company, thus far only selling luxury vehicles?
I think we need to make a special announcement. Do we have the special announcement
a second
slide?
Special announcement?
There's another special announcement.
It's a big week.
It's a big week. We need a special announcement. There it goes. You guys gotta keep it playing. Okay. Anyway, I got my email this past week of my reservation for the Tesla Model S. And in the email, they tell you what number you are in the line.
Ooh.
Would anybody in the chat room like to guess what number Model S I have? Now, I will give, well, I'm not going to give a hint. Should I give a hint?
No hint. Let him guess.
Okay. So
I don't know how you'd give a hint.
I see people here saying number 10. Somebody says 69, 99, 42, 7, 6, 666. Crazy as it sounds, the day they announced the car, FedEx the check to them. I tried to wire it, but I FedEx the check because I'm so pleased with the Tesla Roadster that I FedEx the check. I get the email. And I am, special announcement. Where's
Like
the,
we always do with this time. I go for mine.
you get the intern off the
This is the special
TriCaster.
announcement remix. There we go. I want to see Empire Strikes Back.
I do want to see
Every time I
Empire
hear
Strikes
that.
Back again when I hear that. Number 1.
Number 1.
I have the signature model number 1. I am getting the
Congratulations.
first Tesla White Star Roadster number 1. I am beside myself with that. But I got the check in first. I was signature number 16 on the Roadster. In terms of the loan,
Yes.
so which is your original question.
My original question.
Yes. The loan, I did mention I got number 1, right? Okay. The loan, we gave billions of dollars to the other big car companies that cannot produce
True.
one electric vehicle. They did it 10 years ago. This technology has been around for a long time. Those big guys have failed for so long that I don't know that we should be giving them anything aside from a kick in the ass. However, we did give them a bunch of loans and whatever.
Yeah, Ford got $6 billion out of
Right.
this.
And so just to put things in perspective, the people who can't get an electric car on the road got $6 billion. Right?
Yes.
So the company that's gotten 500 on the road and has invested $150 million, I think this is not that much money. It's like $1 per American, the loan. And it's a loan, we'll get paid back. If they make these cars, it's going to be a big deal.
Yes.
And so I think it's well worth it because, I'll tell you the reason I think it's really well worth it. We have to compete in this industry. Electric cars are going to be a huge, huge global business. We need to have Americans building these cars. We need to have Americans driving these cars. We need to get off of foreign oil. There are like 17 reasons why this is important. Number 1 is national security. We cannot be in business with the Middle East. We should not be sending money to these places. I mean, look at Iran, look at Iraq, look at Saudi Arabia. I mean, these places are hotbeds of terrorism. They're unstable. There's revolutions going on in Iran, essentially. They have a nuclear weapon, possibly. I mean, it's pretty serious stuff. I know we're talking about electric cars on one hand, but it's the oil consumption that drives all that money over there.
Right.
And China will still be doing it, but we need to get people on electrical in this country and be energy independent. So that's what I believe. And I don't think it's that big of a deal to give them a loan. They'll pay it back. No big deal. But I'm biased. I love the car. What can I say, you know? And I hope that there's 20 different car makers making electric cars, and then everybody has a choice. The great thing is this car's going to cost like 50 grand. So that whole argument that, oh, it's $100,000 for the Roadster, now it's $50,000. I think people can tell. I think people know the difference between 50 and 100.
Half.
It's half.
Yeah.
Well, how much was the iPhone when it first came out? The
300? 350?
No, it was $699 for the 8 gig.
Wow.
$599 and $699. The first one.
Unsubsidized.
Unsubsidized. $699 and $599. And then it goes down to $99 now for the second model. And it'll be free. And it's free. SoftBank gives them out for free with a plan
in Japan.
Yeah. So this is how technology works. So people, I don't know why they're hating on Tesla so much. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I think part of it is not just aimed at Tesla, but large government
spending,
financial giveaways to corporations.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other story.
This is just sort of part and parcel of that larger argument that we should let the free market handle itself.
I'm big on the free market. However, I'm a big free market guy. We have an opportunity here to own this industry as a country, the electric vehicle thing, you know, and it's going to be huge. And there is this national security issue. If you think about how much money we spent in Afghanistan and Iraq, and how much money we would potentially spend if Pakistan or Iran went south and we had to get involved, I mean, this is a drop in the bucket. It's not even like it's not even 6 hours in Iraq. You know, like, how much do we spend per hour in Iraq? Somebody tell me in the chat room what we spend per day during the war. It was some $1 billion a day or something
Per
crazy.
day? I don't know.
Anyway, we're talking about, like, this is about
A
45 minutes in terms of the budget for Iraq. Pretty easy for us to do, I think. So, anyway, what do you think?
Well, if it was $100,000 a car, I think we'd have some major issues here. But $50,000, for a premium for electric, right, over traditional, I think that's more palatable. I mean, this is partly a PR issue. You don't want to seem like you're subsidizing people who can afford $100,000 cars.
Right. It's a little PR issue, but they'll have also they're going to have a smart car version because Mercedes invested in them.
Yes.
And they own Smart. So
Right.
they're building like 1,000 prototypes for that, and they're going to make more. So, mazel tov to them, rock on, and to all the haters, this is the thing, right? I mean, how many people were hating on this? And then now Tesla's got $500 million now because it's $50 million
It was
from
more. I think now they have like 700 million or something.
Well, they had $50 million from Mercedes, now $450 million loan or something. So it's
Yes,
about
this is 465 million.
Right, so they have over $500 million in cash now available to them, and it's pretty cool. They're going to be able to. They're going to get the Model S out, the sedan, and if the Roadster is any, qualifier for that, it's a brilliant car. I mean, I will not drive a gas-powered car again. I will not buy a gas-powered car. That's out of the question. I'll never buy one again. Period. Okay.
Okay.
So moving on.
Moving on. A new study by design firm Catalyst Group has found 12 focus group participants, only a 12-person study, so nothing definitive. 12 focus group participants seem to prefer using Microsoft's Bing search to their traditional Google search, but they said they still would probably not switch to Bing as their primary search engine. So is this a question of brand loyalty? And how do you get past brand loyalty? If people know they like Google, even if you design a better, more reliable system, how do you get them off Google?
Time. You have to have time. And you're not going to get everybody. I mean, if you look at Google and the Yahoo relationship, Yahoo still has 20% of the market or whatever it is. Google took some of it, but they didn't take all of it. Some people still prefer Yahoo. And if somebody comes out with a great car, some people are still loyal to the Cadillac. They won't go to the next one. So it takes a lot of time, and you have to show consistently over time that you're going to be better. So I don't think Bing just having a great new version, and it is great. I think they've done a great job. It's excellent. It's well designed. It's beautiful. I think the design is the thing they got best. It's very well designed. They took a lot of chances. It's easy for them to take chances. It's hard for Google to take chances. Google takes chances. They missed their quarterly earnings. Microsoft takes chances. There's nothing to do with their quarterly earnings. They don't make any money. So if they're starting from zero, with regard to search, what does it matter? So I think people do like it. They will get market share, and it's on. Which is great for the industry. Yahoo now and Google now have to start innovating and really focus on this. I mean, you tell me what's going on inside of Yahoo. What do you think of Bing, and what is the sentiment about Bing? It's an impressive product. No?
Yeah, the sentiment is positive. I mean, while it's not a game changer,
right.
it's an impressive product, mostly from a design perspective. Some of the technology is also good. I mean, they built PowerSet, so they got some things under the hood there that are good technology. I mean, Google's an incumbent, so they're going to be slower to adapt naturally, right? They have a business to protect. Every tweak you make in search impacts, billions of revenue, to your point. So I think it's expected that they would take some time to respond. User behavior doesn't change overnight. So I think the true test of Bing is, a year from now, and seeing if it moved the needle. But I do agree that it puts pressure on everyone to continue to innovate. In Yahoo, we have a bunch of things we've talked about, whether it's Boss or SearchMonkey. Those are about openness in search. Things we're doing in local and search and bringing those together, what we call vertical experiences.
Yeah.
And a lot of ways to connect Yahoo's content network to search,
right.
which is something that stands out from both Microsoft and Google. Google's not really in the content business
right.
per se, although they have a number of verticals that they've launched. Some of them are doing good, and Microsoft really doesn't have share there. Right. So I think we all have different strategies. It'd be interesting to see how Bing plays out.
And you brought with you a huge announcement about Microsoft and Yahoo today to announce? Just kidding.
Same thing that was said yesterday, which is nothing.
Nothing, right. I love Carol
Bartz.
Yeah. She's like, listen, there's not a deal, and if there is a deal, nah, see, we're going to have a deal. She's like very
That's
like
Edward G. Robinson?
Yeah, she's just like, when there's a deal, you'll know about it.
Yeah.
I like her. I think she kicks ass. I like a kick-ass CEO, you know? Like somebody who's like, listen, when there's a deal, you'll know there's a deal. And if you don't know there's a deal, that means there isn't. And when I tell you there's a deal, then there's a deal. She's sort of gangster.
Lay down the law.
That's it. I like her. She's strong.
There you go.
And everybody was like, oh, she doesn't know anything about consumer internet, da 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 da. And she was like, oh, if I hear that again, shut up with that. It's great. She's awesome. Her and Bomber is just a great combination. I love that.
It's good.
Can you imagine those negotiations, her and Bomber?
No.
All right, we're not going to get you in trouble. Keep going.
Okay.
Next story.
One more. Speaking of Bing.
Bing, hello.
The Kayak airfare search engine is accusing the Microsoft search product of ripping off its interface.
Yes.
Bing Travel apparently resembles Kayak so much there may already be lawyers involved, according to Wired. Is there anything a small company like Kayak with under 100 employees can do in a situation like this, really? Or should they just be flattered a big company thought enough of their product to borrow its design?
Design can be design is intellectual property. So there are aspects of design that are inherently copyrighted. But that's not going to work so well, I don't think. The layout and the design, kind of hard. If you stole the actual code of the CSS, then, you know, if they found that kind of thing, you have a little bit of a problem. But I think maybe Kayak should spend a little more time focusing on making their product better, less time worrying about what Microsoft is doing. Hackia, which is another search engine,
yes.
I saw on their blog, they claim that Bing stole the idea of category search from them. And they're like, we're the first person to do category search. And I was like, excuse me, I think Mahalo launched before you did, and we had category-based search, and I'm not sitting here crying about Bing, you know?
Right.
Oh, wow, you know, like, oh.
Well, when the cameras aren't on.
Yeah, when the cameras are on, I'm breaking desks. But, no, seriously, I mean, people are just such crybabies about this stuff. The fact is, Naver did category search long before Hackia did it. The concept of, you know, here's blog posts, here's images on one page.
Yep.
So, I don't know. I mean, Microsoft accused of stealing something? Really? Shocking. I mean,
never.
Everybody borrows from each other in the industry. I do think it's probably not in the best taste for them to copy it so literally. I saw the images. It's a little too much. The people at Microsoft, a little bit out of line. And the thing is, Microsoft has to keep in mind with this stuff is it's great to innovate, but if people in the community feel you're stealing too much, they're not going to sell their companies to you. They're not going to want to work with you. And so Microsoft has to be very careful now of they cannot make another mistake like this. So whoever did this, they need to go to that person and say, listen, we know that you copied it. Forget about that. You're not fired. Don't worry. Stop. If you're going to do something, we're paying you to be a little bit original here. Do something original. And don't copy it exactly because we don't need the bad press.
Right.
Bomber said he's going to buy spend billions of dollars on this and buy all these companies. I mean, who's going to go up to Microsoft and meet with them and talk to them about what they're building now? Nobody. And Hackia said they had been up to Microsoft to talk to them and that they couldn't work out a deal or whatever, or it never went anywhere. So now Microsoft is going to start getting the reputation amongst search innovators and companies, or they risk this, that they're stealing. And that anybody who goes to meet with them for a partnership should expect that their intellectual property will be stolen. This is not a good thing to put out in the marketplace. You know, and I know all the players involved in this. I meet with everybody on a regular basis. You really can't protect yourself as a small company. It's very hard. Very few things are copyrightable, trademarkable in design and look and feel. It's just hard. So I don't know that I think Microsoft just needs to, now that this has happened, make amends with those people, however they do it. Pick up the phone and talk to them would be a good idea. I would. And then just make sure that everybody in the team knows, do not do it again. Don't do anything that makes us look like we're stealing. Let's be innovative. What do you think?
Well, I wasn't following this one in particular, but and I think you're right from an entrepreneur's perspective in terms of the way you might look at a Microsoft or a Yahoo if this actually happened. But within a company, I would imagine this happened at a pretty low and tactical level. I mean, this is too big and important a company to make a mistake like this. So it's probably a very tactical thing. So the quicker they can squash the PR and remedy the issue, I think the better. I think from an entrepreneur standpoint of talking with big companies, which is a really interesting conversation in and of itself.
Right.
You know, talking to a Google or Yahoo or Microsoft, I mean, quite frankly, I mean, young companies move so much faster than we do.
Yeah.
So I rarely see any risk. But there are situations when you're talking about deep intellectual property, you're talking about two, you know, PhD type folks who are both in a race against each other to build something, then that's a
whole different level.
Whole different scenario.
Different than design,
different
look and
than
feel.
design.
Yeah, I mean, and also you have to use your brain as an entrepreneur. Like I go meet with a lot of big companies, and I show them, they say, oh, should we sign an NDA, whatever, and you know, I just make a joke, we're under Friendier. Don't blog it, don't tweet it. I won't talk about the fact that I'm here on the campus or whatever it is. And I don't show them anything that is future looking. Like I don't show them Mahalo 3.0. I don't tell them every plan. I show them what's already in the public and that I've already talked about. So it's already out there, and I know that we can go faster than them.
Always, yeah.
Always you can go faster than them. So Hackia and Kayak are now getting all like, oh, you stole our stuff. You know what? Say it and then make a better version, because what they stole was your vision from 5 years ago. If your vision's not constantly changing, then you know that's a sign that your vision is not changing enough.
Right, that they have the problem now.
Exactly. I mean, it's in basketball. There's a concept of playing on your heels. So one person is sticking it to another. They have control of the game.
Right.
And you never want to be in basketball playing on your heels, reactive to the other company, to the other teams. If they put a center in, if they put two tall people in as centers, you put in and you have your small team in, you can either run faster than them and beat them down court, or you can play on your heels and try to defend them with your smaller players. You know, you got to get the advantage. So anyway, use your advantage, which is great advice. Go faster.
Absolutely.
And whatever. Okay, we have homework.
No Deadpool? No
Deadpool.
this week?
Is there a Deadpool?
There is a Deadpool. We have a Deadpool.
Deadpool it is.
New entry into Deadpool.
Really? What? Clear.
Clear was a service that allowed you to register your fingerprints and your irises in advance of arriving to the airport. You could avoid long lines at security for $200 a year. You would sign up. You would go through a exhaustive process of confirming who you were, and then they give you a card. You go to a special clear lane. They had them at about 20 airports. Just swipe your card. You go right through. You cut to the front of the line in security. Unfortunately, now that they have closed, Clear members will not be given refunds, even if they just signed up a few days ago. They lost their money, and no word yet on what will happen to all of that personal information that Clear had, such as customers' fingerprints and their irises, all of the other scans that you had to do.
That stuff should have been held. Well, now, see, the thing is, a bankruptcy court judge, if it's going bankrupt, they shut down or they're going bankrupt, you know?
I believe they shut down. They said they could not come up with enough capital.
So that means that means they're selling the asset to somebody, or they're going to attempt to right now. They couldn't meet payroll next month, whatever. The list that the company owns, even if they made a promise to the users that they were not going to do anything with it, the users are screwed, because a bankruptcy court judge, this happened in Web 1.0, can say, you know what, the interests of the shareholders of this company are greater than the privacy of those people, whatever arrangement they made with them. I am going to sell this mailing list to somebody. When all the .com businesses went out of business, they started selling the assets, and one of them was the lists. So I think people could actually take this stuff and use it. But this idea, I'll tell you the problem I have with this idea. I only thought about this idea when I was coming to the airport. So I would go to San Jose International Airport, and they'd have a Clear booth. There'd be 3 people in it. And the line for security, Tyler, would be how many people at San Jose typically? 5?
It can range anywhere from, well, the thing is, if you have a Southwest business, you pay the extra $15, you don't wait in line.
You don't wait in line. But anyway, just if you have the regular one, because I didn't even know you could do that for the last 2 years.
In security? You don't have to go through security?
If you have
you have to go through security, but if you get the Business Select, they have a special queue that no one's in.
Oh, okay. Because
Business Select,
is for security.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. The people who are the most frequent travelers have business class tickets and first class tickets. They don't have to wait in line anyway. There's a secret line or whatever, special line. So your best customers don't need it.
Right.
And those are the people who it would matter to for $100 to save 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Every time I would come there, it would go to the line. There would only be 5 or 10 people. So I'd look and go, there's 5 people online, and it's going to take me half an hour to sign up for this stupid thing and pay $100. I'm going to be through with the line before I'm through with them. Screw it, I'm going to go to Starbucks. And I don't think the lines were ever so long, and the value proposition wasn't so great. And it didn't. They were competing against the business class and first class, so they lost all their best customers. So, and also, it was a sort of a terrible idea, I think, because, well, nobody agrees, or I think it was a terrible idea because if you're a terrorist,
fair enough,
and you're clever enough to hijack 4 planes simultaneously, bring razor blades or whatever, they box cutters onto the plane, coordinate 4 planes in air being taken, three out of 4 of them hitting their targets tragically. You think Clear is going to stop those people? You are out of your mind if you think those people couldn't get through the Clear system. They absolutely could. I mean, you're not giving the terrorists enough credit. So I don't understand. Like, if you
well, it's just an alternate. It's like you would go through the Clear process, and that's like what the TSA would be doing with you anyway. You're just, you're registering in advance, so you don't have to wait in the line, the twisty line.
The freedoms in the country are getting a little ridiculous. I don't know that we need biometrics at the airport. They have scanners now. They're going to be able to see you naked down to your genitalia at airports.
It's a full body scan. Yeah, they can see through your clothes. I mean, I don't think it's not.
You can see the curve of a woman's breasts and stuff like that. You're going to be able to see a person's genitalia through this thing.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, I agree. I'm not in favor of it. It's not like seeing somebody naked. You're not seeing.
It's enough. I mean, if you were okay, sure. Well, if the person if the $9 an hour person took a picture of it with their cell phone of Brad Pitt naked in there or Angelina Jolie and sent it to TMZ, which will happen.
I would download that. Yeah.
Exactly. So
okay, fair enough.
There you go. So this is ridiculous that we just to fly have to be essentially digitally strip searched. This is not. This is how the terrorists win if they affect our way of life so much. I think.
Yeah.
And I listen, I'm all for security. I don't mind going I take my shoes off, you can pat me down, whatever, but get naked? I mean, it's just crazy. And then my eye scan and my fingerprints, blood test, I mean, what is it going to come to? And I don't want my iris and all this stuff in a national database. I don't want to give biometrics for my driver's license. I mean, it's turning into a police state. It's absurd. I mean, and I don't know. I'm all for safety, but I mean, you go to London, you're captured on 400 cameras every day. I mean, you have no privacy. And the thing is, the people who are in charge of these systems are the people who will compromise them. Because guess what? Any human is compromisable. And so all of these cameras, you can be sure that people will be watching them. Your biometrics, people will be taking them. It's just a disaster. Do it. Somebody had a good point here. Do what the Israelis do at the airport, which is exactly right. I mean, they ask you questions like, where are you going? Oh, who's that, your uncle? What does your uncle do for a living? Oh, mother's side or father's side? Like they ask you these questions, and they can tell. You start sweating, Anyway, we put it in the Deadpool now? Clear. Boom, boom, boom.
Over that way.
Dun, dun, dun. Where should we put them? Let's see.
What is Yahoo GeoCities doing in there?
Oh, sorry about GeoCities.
This week, guys.
Come on.
There it is. Yahoo GeoCities, Clear, into the Deadpool. We don't make fun of the companies that are doing this. We like to talk about why they failed. I mean, failure is part of being an entrepreneur. I have my share of failure. But Clear, in summary, bad idea. Aside from the logo and design, I think bad execution. Because the people in those booths, not one of them ever talked to me.
It's also, they were not in that many airports. That's what a lot of the complaints were.
So bad execution.
20 airports nationwide. I mean, if I'm not going from LAX to San Jose, I'm out of luck.
So there's 3 things that can screw a business, and I was told by Scott Kernan back in the day. Number 1 it's a bad idea. Well, this was a bad idea, I think. Number 2, bad execution. It's only in a handful of airports. It's too expensive.
$200, yeah.
Yeah, too expensive. I mean, the price of a ticket is $100 each way. It's a price of a ticket. Nobody's going to pay for that. Too expensive.
Yes.
And then the third reason is outside factors, right? So it's the idea is bad, the execution is bad, or outside factors. This had all 3 against it. The outside factor was the fact that the airlines gave a special line to first class and business that you took your best customers away. So this was doomed from the beginning. And Steve Brill is a great entrepreneur. He did, I think he did, what did he do, Court TV? And then he had a couple of failures,
Sounds
Inside.com or Brill's Content, failed on a couple of things. Funny joke here, Tesla needs to make a plane. It's funny you mentioned that. Elon Musk talked about that.
Really?
Electric power
electric planes?
Yeah, it's not there yet, but the amount of force needed to get the plane off the ground would have to be fuel, but maybe the batteries could power in flight a little bit.
But can you, like, for a 6-hour flight, you could...
It wouldn't work, not yet.
Yeah.
But it's possible we'll obviously have to get there someday, because how else are we going to colonate Mars, or how are we... or when we run out of gas.
Electric vehicles?
Or when we run out of gas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Are we up to the homework?
Sure. That's no. Now, try again. That's an announcement.
Boy.
Well, we're especially announcing homework.
Yes. Here we go.
There's homework.
Now, we have a homework caller here. Is there a homework caller? There we go.
Who could that be?
Who could that be on my phone? Who can it be now? Hello, this is Jason.
Hey, Jason, this is Brad. How you doing?
Hey, Brad. Did you do your homework, Brad?
I did. I watched the excellent movie, The King of Kong.
You watched The King of Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you're somewhat new to the class. Have you caught up with the other homework assignments?
I watched The Man on Wire, but I haven't had a chance yet to watch the first homework assignment.
Yes, Steve Water. So that's okay. You're new to the class. We're not going to. You have time to make up your past assignments. So tell us, as entrepreneurs, what can we learn from the King of Kong?
Well, what I took away from The King of Kong was that it kind of shows the two avenues that you can take in life, and also to take in entrepreneurship. And you have Steve Wiebe, who is always down on his luck. He's not very aggressive, but he's a really nice guy, and everyone seems to like him. He's kind of the hero of the film. But then on the other side, you have Billy Mitchell, who is very cocky, arrogant, but also it looks like he's a multimillionaire in the film. He's very successful, has a line of hot sauces. He gets a bunch of press. He's the guy that's getting all the recognition from the judges about his scores, even though he sends them in by videotape, or sometimes you're not really sure whether he's cheating or not. But he's always the one that's getting the magazine covers, and I think that kind of shows the two ways that people can go in life. You can be the really nice guy, and you might finish first, which Steve Wiebe almost kind of does, because at the end, he really is the hero.
Yes.
But it took him a long time to get there. He got laid off, and he's just really struggling with his family life and everything. Or you can be really aggressive. You might get a lot of people not liking you so much, but you're going to be the guy that's getting a lot of success. You might be the one that's making a lot of money.
Right.
But you might lose a lot of friends in the process, like Billy Mitchell.
Right, exactly. You've done very well on your homework. I give you an A+. This is a great first homework assignment. You are a welcome addition to the class, Brad.
Thank you.
I wish some of the other students would be as diligent as you are. It's a note to the rest of the class, Tyler. And
I told you to see this movie.
All right, that's good.
I've watched all three films.
You've watched all three films.
I have seen all three films.
Lon, tell us, what's your perception of the film, what we can take away from it, and what did you think of Brad's thesis?
I thought Brad nailed it. I mean, I think that, that's really, we're seeing two guys who both sort of could be considered great successes and failures, really, in sort of how the movie plays out. And I think, that's the takeaway, is that there are different paths to success. You can always get to the same place, but is it as meaningful when you get there? And I actually think the issue he brought up, that's to me one of the most interesting things about it, is just that the whole world of video game competitions, it's really kind of this chaotic world. You can videotape, and I know you can reset the levels on the machines. There's always controversy about, it had the extra hard setting on the machine, and he was playing on not as hard a setting, and there's all this kind of stuff, and so it really does become more personal, and no one maybe is ever going to have the unambiguous no asterisk by their name, I'm the all-time world champion. It's really about sort of how you're approaching the task, why you need to be the champion so much, and the sort of the spirit that you go in there with, and are you doing this because you love the game and because you really want to do well, and and you're just inspired to sort of try to be the best, or are you sort of a little bit more crass, a little more selfish and in it just for sort of personal material gain?
Right.
That'd be my take. But yes,
Yeah.
I thought Brad answered
Tyler,
excellently.
thoughts on King of Kong? I mean, you've recommended the film. It's one of your favorite films.
I have met Steve Wiebe.
You've met Steve?
Yeah, Lana and I both.
Yes.
Met Steve Wiebe last year's TWiST Up. He did a live demo of him playing Donkey Kong. And I hear he recently, since the movies, very recently, within the last couple months, has set a new record again.
Yes.
You want to see a kill screen?
He has recently broken his old record.
But I think, for me, the point of Steve Wiebe is he doesn't give up.
Right.
The guy's, like, he might come off very soft, but at the end of the day,
he's resilient.
The guy is not going to give up, and at the end, he's going to win out over Billy Mitchell just due to he's got some internal motivation that just is unstoppable.
Right. And you have the sensitive guy, and then you got the arrogant guy, and they're both trying to win. In fact, they've both beaten the machine. They both are in the top 5 video game players in the history of the planet.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the idea.
They're both successful, but
head-to-head, who knows who's better? They're both amazing, and it's hard to even get down to that fine a distinction of which one is actually better. An interesting, I've just thought of this, interesting counterpoint to this movie would be Pumping Iron, which is the same kind of idea. You got Lou Ferrigno, who's the really nice guy bodybuilder, whose dad is helping him. And you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, who now a lovely gentleman, but in the film, a sort of a mean-spirited, kind of callous guy who's sort of mocking him and cruel. And yet, they're both vying for the same thing. They're just going at it in very different ways.
Yeah, and they both massive sacrifice to get to their goal.
Yes.
Which was incredible. I love the scene where he's like setting a record and then the kid's crying and wants him to come feed him or something or tuck him in bed. It's crazy.
Dedication.
Dedication, sacrifice in order to beat Donkey Kong. King of Kong, an amazing film. And Brad, thank you for calling in. And where are you going to be September 14th and 15th?
Hopefully up in at TechCrunch 50, I'm hoping.
Really? Did you buy a ticket?
I was going to, but I was hoping that my pal Jason might be able to sneak me in.
Really? Okay. Well, then you will be my guest at the TechCrunch 50 conference. So Tyler and Alex, can we make sure Brad with his A+ gets into the conference, and we'll see you there. And if you'd like
to
come
thank you very much.
localsearchsummit.com, you're welcome to come to that as well. And we'll stay. You can hang up now, but make sure you keep tuning in because we're about to give next week's homework assignment.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, cheers now, Brad. Okay, so you didn't happen to see King of Kong, did you?
I didn't.
Did you see Man on Wire?
I didn't.
Or did you see Deep Water?
I'm in Hollywood, so I'm like underqualified.
No movies. All right, somebody's got to get their homework done. Here we go. All right, everybody, just rate the show on Twitter. Put #TWiST at the end, TWiST. Also, thank the sponsors. Everybody should thank. I wonder if Full Tilt has does Full Tilt have their own Twitter account? Twitter.com/FullTilt?
Maybe Full Tilt or Full Tilt Poker?
They don't.
Try Full Tilt Poker.
Maybe it's Full Tilt Poker. Let's see. Everybody thank the sponsors. No, they haven't gone on Twitter yet. Somebody needs to get Full Tilt Poker on Twitter. Everybody rate the show. Everybody thank the sponsors at WebSpy, at DNA Mail, and at Ustream. They love when you do that.
Oh, they got a really strange name. It's full_tilt_poker.
Oh my God, that is crazy.
Looks like Full Tilt and Full Tilt Poker are not being used.
So it's
full_tilt_poker.
That's crazy. And the other ones aren't even being used. Somebody's taken their trademark. I think they have a rule against that.
They do?
Well, anyway, there you go. Full_tilt_poker. Everybody go follow them. Everybody thank them for sponsoring me in the World Series of Poker. And let's see what our homework is for this week.
I feel a bit like a snake that swallowed 2 watermelons at the same time. I'd started this project to write only an article, a diversion to engage my pen while completing the research for my next full-size book on what it takes to endure and prevail when the world around you spins out of control. That research is based on a 6-year project with my colleague Morten Hansen. But along the way, the question of how the mighty fall, well, it became clear that it defied the constrictions of an article and evolved into this small book. I'd considered setting this piece aside until we'd finished the Turbulence book. But then the mighty began to fall, like gigantic dominoes crashing around us. When I wrote this preface on September 25, 2008, I found myself looking out at the Manhattan skyline from a United Airlines Airbus, marveling at the cataclysmic events. Bear Stearns fell from number 156 on the Fortune 500 to gone, bought out by J.P. Morgan Chase in a desperation deal engineered over a weekend. Lehman Brothers collapsed into bankruptcy after 158 years of growth and success. Fannie Mae.
Yes, How the Mighty Fall and Why Some Companies Never Give In by Jim Collins. Jim Collins, of course, of Good to Great fame. You can go buy the book if you want to read it and discuss it next week, or you can download it from Audible. Go to audible.com. They're not a sponsor. They should be a sponsor.
Why
Audible.
aren't they a sponsor?
I don't know why Audible's not a sponsor. Can somebody email somebody at Audible? Audible.
Great company.
Great company. Put the Audible logo here.
You know, I used to work there, right?
You worked at Audible?
Yeah.
You're kidding. I love Audible.
Yeah, I'll connect you with the people there.
Really? You worked for Audible?
Mm-hmm.
No, the Audible people love when I do the commercials on This Week in Tech.
Is that right?
I do a commercial for them. But yeah, go download it off Audible. I think you can search for it on iTunes, and they'll have the Audible version there. I have not read this yet, so this is a homework assignment for me too. I just know Jim Collins' Good to Great was one of my favorite books of all time, so I'm going to download this. I'm going to listen to it while I'm playing poker, and we're going to discuss it next week on This Week in Startups. Thanks.
You can digest a book while you're playing poker?
Well, you know, the thing is, I'm not in every hand. So if I get in a good hand, then I have the iPhone on, and if you press the little thing here, it pauses.
Right.
So I pause it, and then I play the hand. So when I'm in hand, I pause it. And that's a little bit of a tell for people that I have good cards.
Right. You pause
So
your
then what I
audio
do is, this is my other trick, I will pretend I'm pressing it, or I'll pretend my headphones are on, they're not on. And I'm listening to people talk. So they think I'm listening, but then I pretend like that, like I'm a good hand, and I put the check, and I put my chips on top of it, like make a whole big deal that I got aces or something. It's like a 2-7. Then I go in for $120, and people all fold, and then I turn over 2-7. Then everybody goes, oh, he's like doing that, and then I only play high cards and crush them again. Because I think I'm, anyway, that's it for the news?
If you want to keep going, we could, but we don't have to.
And what's the best news story you have left?
The best news story I have left. Let's talk about... Plans for a feature film based on the founding of Facebook moved forward this week, with The Hollywood Reporter breaking word that Fight Club and Benjamin Button director David Fincher may helm the product based on a screenplay by West Wing creator Aaron Sorkin. Are you excited for this film? You think they'll be able to make the founding of a startup captivating for a mainstream audience? And who would you cast as Mark Zuckerberg?
This film will be terrible.
David Fincher's great,
This film will not get made.
I mean, nothing's definite. Fincher's not necessarily definitely aboard, but they've made an offer to him, and he's apparently interested.
I can't imagine a more boring film.
It does seem. That's what I was thinking. How do you make this palatable for like a Saturday night? Let's go see a movie.
There is nothing exciting about starting a website. Nothing. I mean, and Zuckerberg, and what are they going to do? Show him in his underwear coding for 18 hours a day? It's not like he's out on
You cast that kid from Twilight, though. Put him in his underwear in a dorm room. People will show.
I don't know. I think this film will be terrible. I can't imagine this film gets made.
Aaron Sorkin, David Fincher.
I mean, Nate, tell me the one. I mean, the one I'm looking forward to actually is Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes.
Is reportedly doing a biopic of the founder of Atari, Nolan Bushnell.
Really?
Yes. Is that correct, Tyler?
That's the first I've heard of it.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Somebody go check that for me. But yeah, this is a terrible idea. And I don't know who they could play Zuckerberg. I mean, they should have the kid from Arrested Development play him.
Michael Cera?
Michael Cera.
Michael Cera could be Zuckerberg.
That would be a great Zuckerberg.
That's not a bad.
Horrible. Who? I mean, really? Is this the best idea for a film?
It's called The Social Network. Aaron Sorkin wrote the script.
That name is terrible.
Aaron Sorkin wrote this. He's been writing the script for months. In fact, he had said he'd never been on Facebook. He joined it when he started writing the script, just to get a feel for what it's all about. Script is written. I mean, he's got he wrote Few Good Men. He's written some big movies. Now, yeah, David Fincher. I mean, Oscar nominated.
Are they trying? I know what this is. They're trying to time it with the IPO. They believe this is the next Google. They believe the IPO is coming. They believe they can get the film done at the time of the IPO, and that they will have the IPO will be the marketing for the film. Interestingly enough, I wonder if you're allowed to come out with this film during the quiet period of the IPO.
Well, it's based on
it's
the story.
It's independent of the people.
It's not
there.
being funded, and no direct connection to Facebook. It is based on the founding of Facebook, but I don't even know. They're calling it the social network. They may not even use the word Facebook. They might make up their own.
Oh, wait. Oh, so it's not. It's going to be like loosely based on, you think? Or?
Well, I don't know. Whatever Aaron Sorkin decided to write, but it is a fictionalized sort. It's not a documentary film. They're making it into a story.
Do you guys remember when Harry Met Sally? They had AOL kind of cameoed and. You've
got mail, yeah.
I mean, see, that was an interesting tie-in, right? A tie-in makes sense, but you need a story.
Yeah.
You need a story.
Yeah, no, this is the story of the Facebook founding.
The reason that worked was
they're students at Stanford, and
You've Got Mail worked because there was a story behind it. Like there was the Barnes. I think it did because it was a story of the Barnes and Noble beating the bookstore.
It's Shop Around the Corner, actually. Yeah. It's a remake of an old film.
And so, and also you had Tom Hanks and
Meg Ryan.
Meg Ryan, which everybody loves them together. And the premise of people talking anonymously and having romances on instant messaging was very prescient and realistic. So, but you'll notice with that film, very little of it occurs on a computer screen. Yeah. And this is the kiss of death for any movie about computers, is that you cannot make a monitor interesting. Hackers,
Swordfish. That's
Swordfish. It's just like, nobody can be cool at a keyboard. There's nothing exciting about anybody on a laptop, period.
Swordfish has that amazing sequence where there's like 8 monitors and Hugh Jackman's standing at them like, I gotta finish this code.
Right, or else I'm gonna get shot or something.
Yeah, there's some craze. He's gotta write the worm that Travolta needs to break in. I don't know.
And he's like, I need 3 days, and he's like, you have 3 minutes, and like as if the gun is gonna make.
Right, then he writes a million lines of code instantly.
Let me tell you something. If putting a gun to a developer's head got code done quicker and better, I'd be the first guy to arm myself up. I would be carrying 2 pistols on either side.
Triads in his whole office.
It would be like when they're in the silo in war games or whatever, like guys would have their guns on each other, finish the code with one hand. I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah, you won't
cannot
until you try.
Johnny Mnemonic.
Oh, come on, no.
Anytime. No. This is not going to be good. I mean, and you know what the other problem with these things is? They're always going to have some scene where they're running around with the website on a floppy disk or a thumb drive. You remember what was the one that Angelina Jolie was? Hackers. Hackers, they're running around on their rollerblades with the disk, and they got to get the disk to the computer.
Hacking the street lights too, which is
it's just like it's just terrible. That's going to be a disaster. Anything else? What are the other news stories?
We got Friend Feed. They've added file sharing.
Who cares?
We've got TripIt.
Wait. Friend Feed added file sharing?
Yes,
they're hosting the files. That's
yes, up to 3 MP3s, PDFs. You can share PDFs. Any smaller. No movies. Nothing too big, but smaller files. And you can only do 3 MP3s a day, and then they cut you off.
This is what Pounce did.
Yes, very similar.
And this is specifically so people can share storing goods.
Right. They're saying that they have a sort of YouTube-esque anti-piracy policy, which is if they get a cease and desist, they will pull it.
That's fine. What's the other one?
We've got TripIt, which has added a premium version for $100 a year. TripIt Pro.
That's a TechCrunch 40 company? TechCrunch 50, good, yeah.
And we finally there are thousands of applications in the iPhone App Store, but we have a study that says very few of them are actually being used. Only about half of the applications, in fact, have 1,000 or more users.
Well, I mean, if you just look at your own iPhone, like how many you have 40 applications in your...
Oh, I don't even have 40 in mine.
30, whatever. How many do you use?
I keep a neat iPhone.
3?
Regularly 5, 6 applications I use.
Okay, which ones are the standard applications that come with the phone?
Well, right, aside from iPod or whatever the standard applications are. I mean, there's a few games I play on.
Oh, you play some games.
I have a few games. I only have 1 or 2 of them on at a time, and I've got Around Me, which is a really cool one.
That's a good one, yeah.
Where that's like, whatever's in your immediate area. And AIM, I use AIM.
Yeah, that's
Facebook's on the iPhone.
Yeah. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like... Yeah, you wouldn't. It's not like you're going to use a lot of these.
Right, and they say about half are getting 1,000 users or more. less than 5% have above 100,000 users and are really sort of
that's still impressive, I think. But it's going to be a long tail power curve. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question I was going to ask is, how do you avoid getting lost in the shuffle? If you have a new iPhone app, what do you do? Because it's so self-perpetuating. I mean, they put the top apps on the top of that list. Those are the ones everybody sees. If you've got a new app nobody knows about, it doesn't involve, like shaking a baby or something controversial. How do you get noticed?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you can buy ads in other applications now.
Really?
Yeah, I think AdMob does that. I don't know, man. I think you have to have something viral in your like if you have Zanga Poker or something like that. This is really annoying. Zanga Poker is doing a good job because I get emails constantly that people sign up, and then to get more poker chips, you invite your friends.
Oh, I hate that.
So then, I'm like this, and so if they invite you, you get chips, they get chips. So I'm constantly getting $5,000 chips. So I see when all my friends are, starting to play poker, wasting their time playing poker. Not that I would know anything about that full tilt poker. There you go. Yeah, I don't know. We could do a whole show on how to do a purple cow with your iPhone application. We should do that. Maybe that sounds like a good one.
Not a bad idea.
All right, thank you, everybody. That's 2 hours of show. We promised only 90 minutes. Everybody rate the show. Everybody in the chat room, tell us what you thought of the show. Contact at thisweekinstartups.com. Let's see. Sneakers was a great movie.
Sneakers was a great movie.
Yeah.
Very little actual computer stuff in that one, though. They're mostly pulling like heists.
Very impressed with the most recent TWiST broadcast. Matt Hodder, thank you for that. 10 out of 10 from Eden Janger. Thank you for that. 9.5 today from RAJJR. Thank you for that. 9.5 out of Patrick Pater. Getting there. Make the sound crispy. Crispy. All right, well, that's some crisp to the sound. Paul Capestany says it was a 9. Need to get a different intern. I don't know what that means. I think it was because we had the 2 mistakes.
The homework.
It happens. Don't worry about it. It happens.
Away.
Who cares?
They're doing a wonderful job.
We're not on network TV. They're doing a great job.
Wonderful job.
A.W. Lemming gives it 9 out of 10. People love the show. This is great. These are all great scores. Every week it goes up a little bit. And we'll see you all next time on This Week in Startups.
Like we always do with this time, I go for mine.